Hey everybody, today I am going to turn you on to this website if you haven't been there before. It's called Oolimo.com, Oolimo, I believe. And it will, up on the screen here, I cropped just the fretboard because this is what I'm going to show you how to use it and how it identifies chords and the intervals and where they are, how to finger them. The cool thing about this is you can change the tuning. Now I have it standard tuning. I have each note open, so when you just strum all 6 strings, it happens to be an E minor 11 chord, which isn't used that much and generally doesn't sound that great. Down here, this shows what you're actually playing, the 1 being the root. It always identifies the chord with the root note. So here it's an E. If I get rid of that E, it now identifies that chord as a A type of chord, calling the A the root. All the other notes are, different intervals in the key of A. So, the D would be a sus4. So this chord is if you're just playing these 5 strings, okay, that's an A sus9, which again isn't a great sounding chord. And the other cool thing is when you click a note, it'll play it for you. So it's kind of a cheap way to figure if you're in tune or not. What I want to show you is some pretty cool chords, or just some, maybe you've discovered these, maybe not, but that's what we're here today to do. What I'm clicking on the screen here is basically, it's an E5 chord, and it's a chord I've played. Many of us may play a power chord, up here. Okay, that's it. That's an E5 chord where it's just a 1 and a 5. I tend to play it back here lots of times when I'm playing along, rather than playing this full cowboy chord E. I play this, which is just a 1 and a 5. That's why we call it an E5. And if you notice, there's only E's and B's, which are the root, and the B is the 5. There's no third in here, so there's nothing that's identifying it really as a major or a minor. But the cool thing about this chord is sometimes I slide this up, and I'm like, man, what's that chord? So it's basically the same shape, but I'm just sliding it up where now this index finger is on the 5th fret, and my pinky is on 7th fret. So let's see what it's called. And there we go. I just kind of changed it. I'm playing all 6 strings, okay, and it's an E minor 7. So now I'm thinking, there's a lot of songs I play with an E minor 7th in it. And I can play it there because we're capturing all of the intervals of what an E minor 7th would be. We have the root, okay, the minor 3rd, the 5th, which those 3 notes make up a minor chord. And then when you add a 7, it makes it an E minor 7. Okay, so now I know I can play an E minor 7th right there. Okay, so let me think of a song that I use in E minor 7th. Down by the River by Neil Young, E minor 7 A. I normally go. Okay, but now I can go. Okay, let me throw that A in there. Let me show you how I play that A. All right, now if I get rid of this E, okay, now it shows me that this is an A. Again, because the A is the root. If I get sloppy and play the E, it's still an A, okay? But it's calling it an E6 sus, okay? Because it has a 1, a sus4, there's no 5 in here, but there's a 6. So it kind of it calls the chord by what the root is, okay? Now, if I scroll down at the bottom here, you'll see down below there's this section called possible chord names. And as you see, the A is in there, okay? But because I have the root notated here, it's calling it an A6 sus. But it's basically an A. And there's other names for it here, okay? But I don't want to get too confused. So that's why I really just want to show you the fretboard. But, if I get rid of that E, this is an A. So getting back to Down by the River, which we were playing like this, with this E minor 7. And then you play that A I just showed you. Be on my side, I'll be on your side. Okay? But there, there's an E minor shape, there's an A shape, which you may already know. We'll take this E5 shape that we now slid up here, and let's slide it up. That sounds pretty cool. Okay, we're just sliding it up, one more fret, where we're fretting these two strings on the 6, and that's sliding up there. And here's an E major 7th. All right? Now, it's always good to look at the intervals to make sure that we're capturing all the notes of an E major 7th. So an E major 7th is basically an E major, which has a 1, a 3, and a 5, and it has that major 7th note, which is, in this case, it's a D sharp. But that same shape is an E major 7th. So if you've ever struggled to play an E major 7th, because an E major 7th back here is maybe something you're not familiar with playing with. Maybe you play it up here. Okay, but now you can play it. All right, there's your E major 7th. And let's try something else. Let's move everything up one more. Okay, and here is an E sus 4. Okay, it just says E sus, but it's an E sus 4 because, all right, you have a root. Actually, you have 4 roots, so it's very heavy in E's, all right, which sometimes, maybe you don't want to play one of the E's, but it's always good to play an E in the bass. But even if you don't play that E, you still have okay, but we'll play them all. Okay, so this is an E sus 4, and this A note here is basically the sus 4. Okay, you can always play a sus 4 up here. But there's an E sus 4. But the cool thing about this tool is you can really discover new chords. All right, sometimes I play this chord. All right, and this is where I use my thumb to grab that A on the 5th fret, and then I kind of put the other fingers down like an E chord, but I let the E and a B ring. And what is this chord? Well, it's some kind of an A because we have a 1, a 3, and a 5. Okay, another 5 over here. But we have a 9. So this is what we call an A add 9. You don't have to use your thumb if you can't reach it. You can use your index finger. Okay? Because you're not really using your index finger if you're using your thumb to grab that bass note, because these 3 fingers are holding down that E-shaped chord there, okay? But of course it's an A of some sort, and we're adding that 9. So if you want, you can put your index finger over there, okay? And that's pretty cool. All right, so that's a good way to throw an A in when the song's going to an A. And then if we slide that up, it's probably some kind of a B. So let's see, slide everything up, and this is a B add 11, okay? So. Okay, that E note is an 11 in the scale of B, B major. So, but they sound good together, the A and the B. Oh, let's look at some other chords here. How about this one? It's with the, let's see. In Melissa, for the Allman Brothers, you play E, and you play this chord here, which is an E sus 6/9. I call this an F sharp minor. If you scroll down below and you see some of the chord names, you'll see that there is an F sharp minor with an 11, and then of course it's also called an F sharp minor 11 with an E in the bass. Okay, so many times you can kind of find a different name for the chord, and you can use this chord in the place of an F sharp minor. Okay, F sharp minor is going to have, if we're calling this an F sharp minor 11, we have the 1, we have the minor third, and we have the fifth. So these three notes here make up that minor. What you'll do in Melissa anyway, but I'll use this chord many times for an F sharp minor. But if you slide this whole configuration up 2 frets, I'll call this a G sharp minor. Okay, let's see if G sharp minor is down below. There's a G sharp minor with an E, and there's a G sharp minor flat 6. I just call this a G sharp minor. But that's how you play Melissa. E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor. Okay, so anytime there's an F sharp minor and a G sharp minor in a song, lots of times you can use that configuration. And let's slide that up even a little further. So the cool thing about this is you get these different chord shapes with open strings, and they're just called different things. So here's a kind of a dissonant sounding chord, and one of the reasons why there's a whole bunch of notes in this. There's 5 different notes. There's a root, there's a 5, there's a 6, there's a sharp 11, and there's a flat 9. These are the intervals in the key of E. You'll never write this chord out. You'll probably have to give it a name. I would just call it an E6. But if you want to go down to the bottom here, this will show you different names for the chord. So don't let it get you too confused. Give it a name that's easy to remember. In this case, I call this an E6, but you can hear those other ringing notes that, give it a different sound. And really, especially with songwriting, it helps you come up with a melody, because you have all these different notes ringing that may lead your melody, your next line, your next word to something else. So again, let's just reset it to, okay, let's play this shape, which is basically it's a kind of like an E shape, but slid all the way up here. Okay, what is this? This is an E sus9. That sounds pretty cool. This chord, if I drop that 2 frets down, this is an E minor flat 6. So discover some chords, play different shapes, slide them up to different frets, have open strings ringing, and identify what the chord is. Many times you'll stumble upon a chord that you can substitute for other chords. But just slowly build your chord vocabulary. Good luck. Again, you see the website on the screen, and have some fun with it. See ya.